everyone, welcome to today's episode. I'm here talking with Susan Smith. She has a tremendous amount of expertise in the career counselling area. She's been working in this sector for over 25 years. She's worked with students from key stage 3 all the way to university, helping them refine their applications, getting to know themselves a bit better, and overall taking control of your career and making your efforts translate to even greater success. So happy to have you here today, Susan. Thank you very much for attending.
That's great, Sophie. Lovely to be here.
Oh no, of course. And one of the big questions that we talked about with the Facebook A-level community, the economics community, was how do you kind of get ahead this year? I think that was a really big question, maybe because of the coronavirus kind of pandemic coming into 2021. These are the students that have faced tremendous challenges both in year 12 and in year 13. They've had bouts of in-person school, homeschool, and with that has come lots of changes with work experience, with internships, things shifting online a little bit more. We could kind of tackle that kind of theme. That would be really great.
Well, I'll just begin because I think as you say, I work very closely with university students and sixth form students, and I have been responsible for coordinating work experience for sixth formers for the last 6 years. And there have been a lot of opportunities to do work experience virtually, and those actually still exist. So there are some great places. If you do a search using Google and you do virtual work experience, then there are things coming up that you can start to research, but also the Careers and Enterprise Company. If you visit their website, careersandenterprise.co.uk, and they have a resource directory. So what you can do is search in the resource directory and put virtual as a keyword, and they have a list of all the virtual work experience opportunities that are there. Now, the issue really is, why would you be doing work experience? And obviously you're studying economics and you're thinking potentially a career in economics or finance or mathematical modelling, analysis, anything to do with numbers, finance. It might even be that you've got an interest in the public sector, civil service, working for local government. The point of doing work experience is to develop your awareness of the world of work. So it doesn't really matter if it's as an economist or as a lawyer. The point is that there are similar traits in every area of work, and mostly that's client meetings, client briefing, understanding customers' needs, working professionally to question and to listen, working professionally to answer the phone, listening to what people want and giving them a response, whether that's a certainly we can help or that's amazing, that's something we need to consider, we can help soon. It's all about how you're navigating and negotiating with people. So even if you haven't managed to get what you consider to be accurate or economist-based work experience, it's not that. It's not almost about the work experience you did, it's about what you learned. And this is what employers are looking for, is the ability to reflect. The ability to reflect on all the learning you're doing whilst you're doing your A-levels, on how you're managing your time, how you're managing your commitments, how you're juggling competing priorities. And I think it will be, this is the lockdown generation, and as you move forward, you are going to be asked what you've done during lockdown. How did you manage? How did you remain resilient? Did you keep your focus on fitness? Did you read more? If you haven't done anything really, and you've been so fed up and you've just about managed the homework, then I think you need to be considering how you can be upskilling a little bit now. There are some, free courses on Future Learn that I would be advising you take a look at. Some of you may have Unifrog in your school, and there are some webinars that you can use.
Okay, Unifrog.
Unifrog.org. And actually, if you do a search, Unifrog free webinars, even if you haven't got Unifrog, then there are webinars that you can look at, looking at lockdown and looking at things you can do during lockdown. There's also free kind of webinars on upskilling. There's some amazing ones on FutureLearn about how to apply for graduate jobs or how to make the most of your time at university. You can show that you've used this time for preparation, that you've used this time to plan ahead. Maybe you've read up more on Adam Smith, or maybe you've done a little bit of an insight into what's happening. Hopefully, you're definitely all getting The Economist, and you're all reading about the financial implications of this pandemic. I hope that you're all following Rishi Sunak on Twitter, that you're all following Boris Johnson on Twitter. You need to be keeping abreast of the current issues and the current challenge this government faces. And nobody can have not noticed the furore over a 1% pay rise to the NHS. The point is, as you move forward with your career, you are expected to have an opinion. You're expected
Okay, on current affairs, yeah. Is that from an economics perspective?
Yeah,
Does that
definitely
have
from
to
an economics perspective, definitely from a political perspective. The point is that the world isn't just passing you by and you're sort of sitting on the fence like some passive bystander. Employers are looking to see your maturity. They're looking to see that you can, have an opinion. And it is difficult because the education system is very much learn the A level, regurgitate the facts, write the essay, get the mark. But they're looking for discerning learners who can pick through information and find out what's pertinent. Because again, always back to client work. When a client's only with you for half an hour, you need to get to the point. What are their needs? What information do you need to tell them? So they're always looking at how you amass information, how you sift through what's relevant, how you apply it to your immediate environment. So potentially
Mhm.
maybe your parents have been furloughed. How did that furlough scheme work? Talk to your parents about how they've managed their budget during the pandemic. What things have they noticed? Have the price of things gone up? Just, you need to be aware of everything to do with living and money and finance. So there are opportunities for virtual work experience. Still go and research those. Look at the Careers Enterprise Company, and also from your perspective as a student, be taking the time to reflect about what you've learnt. Maybe you want to start keeping a journal as you come out of lockdown. Maybe you want to talk to friends as you go back to school, talk to teachers. The point is that you want to try and show that you're using this time. Whilst you haven't got work experience, you haven't been sitting just doing the minimum. You've pushed yourself in some facet, whether that's, reading a new book, a new series, learning to cook a different thing. How did you fill your time? And if you say, oh, I just game. And the reality is, we probably all just sat on Xbox. But even then, there's strategy games. I mean, you're playing with people all around the world. Like, you're still being quite strategic. So you really just got to reflect with an employer's eyes on your experience and think, how do I make this sound better, or show that I was actively engaged? Whatever you were doing it in a way that you were engaged with it. So getting ahead is about really ensuring that you give the best account of your skills, the best account of what you're learning, and have an idea of what's working for you, what hasn't worked for you, how you've had to improve your performance. So a huge facet for everybody has been motivation, resilience, tenacity. How do you keep going when you don't speak to people and everything's online? How do you still feel up and motivated to make the most of every opportunity? So, it might be that really you haven't, but to an employer, you need to have. So let's really think about our experience with that fresh perspective and that fresh potential for optimism.
Okay, Susan. And that's really interesting, and I think it does resound to the times that there are lots of opportunities out there. As you said, there are websites like Unifrog that help you find opportunities, and even I've seen adverts on LinkedIn or Google about webinars that are starting up. But let's say somebody found an opportunity that they really were interested in, that really reflected what they wanted to do in the future. What kind of strategies could this person do to try and make their chances of getting that opportunity more successful? How could they make their application stand out from the crowd? Is there a particular way to sign cover letters or write CVs or send this application?
So the thing about it is that, I mean, it's a rather crude analogy, so I do hope you forgive me. But if you were, on some sort of dating app, right, and you were looking for your ideal partner, you'd have a few kind of key things that you wanted to see in them, and to that extent, you would write that on your profile. I'm seeking, somebody who can cook, or somebody interested in cycling. And in the same way, an employer is doing exactly that. They're saying, look, we want somebody who's passionate about this job. We want somebody who's going to go the extra mile. We want somebody who's going to fit in and come with enthusiasm. So these are generally standard things in a job advert. But how would you show that to an employer if you're applying? Well, what you wouldn't do is just fire off a CV to dear
Okay.
sir, stroke madam, or to whom it may concern. So again, it's about this personalised approach. So
That's interesting though, 'cause if I may interrupt you there for one moment, because a lot of the application at the websites, they say, "Send your application to this email or through this form."
if there's a formal way, so if it's like just email admin at, okay, it doesn't mean that you can't try and phone up and see who's responsible for the recruitment, maybe who's the head of their HR. So, usually what I do is I do some research and I'll call the contact number and I'll say, look, you're currently advertising a vacancy, or, I'm looking for somebody within the HR department, or I see that you have an economics department. Could you please tell me who runs that
Mhm.
department? And the first thing they'll say is, well, who are you? And you've not to panic, because that's okay. That's part of the conversation. They're not going to transfer somebody to another department without knowing your name and the purpose of your call. So you would say, well, I'm a year 13 or a year 12 student, and I'm currently doing a project in this area, or I'm seeking the opportunity to undertake some work experience. Or very cleverly, you might be using it as an opportunity to undertake what we call an informational interview. Now, informational interviews are a great tool to get in front of people and to develop your network. So if you were just to Google search informational interview, it's a formal technique where you ask to speak to somebody about their job or their role, with a view to learning more about that career industry, and understanding better the challenges ahead of you. So it's usually can I speak to you about your job? I'd love to find out more about the industry, and I'm really looking for some personal advice at this stage. With lockdown happening and the lack of work experience available, I still want to be growing in my understanding and
Okay.
development of the skills required in this career area. So you can set up an informational interview. It's not any more than 20 minutes. And they just put time in the diary, and it's a very formal thing where you're sort of interviewing them like a journalist about their job, their career, what they'd wish they'd known when they were your age. So it's a sort of advice mentoring thing. So you can be calling up to maybe book or see if you can set up an informational interview, or you might be calling what we call on spec, um, speculatively, to see if there is the
Okay, so
opportunity to
you don't.
undertake work experience. The issue is you want a name. That's really what I'm getting to, Sophie. You want to be sending your CV to a name or a particular email address. Now, if they say, "Oh well, no, we don't do that," then you say, "Well, that's a shame. You may not have done it in the past, but I still would like to contact somebody within HR. Could you give me the name of somebody or a potential email address?" Well, so and so's not in today. Ah, so they're not in on a Tuesday. What's the best time to contact them? The point is, you've got to be quite polite and professional, but be firm. You need some information from this call. So it can feel, first couple of
Of
times you do
course,
it,
I
you're
can
probably, "Oh,
imagine
right,
be
thanks
very
very much," and you
nervous
might put the phone
with
down, but no, stick with it.
that.
You get better with practice, but it's a professional exchange, and I think that's really important, that students in sixth form, the education system, it's very passive, it's all sort of done to us. But as you start to transition into university, into applying for vacancies, degree apprenticeships, you need to be taking more of an active role. You need to be presenting yourself professionally, being firm, because ultimately you're going to be in front of clients. So if you can't manage to get information from a phone call, don't feel that you're being rude. You're not. You're seeking out information and you're asking
Okay, so
polite.
you're just kind of progressing things forward and helping refine your skills in the process at the same.
Yeah, you don't want to annoy anybody. You might say, "Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate how busy you are. Look, would it be all right with you if I checked in again in a week? I might email in a week from now. Would that be okay?" And then they go, "Yeah, that's no problem." Then you email and they realize, okay, the student's not going away. So you're trying to sort of be
Yeah.
polite, but present so that they will sort of start to take responsibility. Sometimes I say, thanks so much for your time. What was your name?" And when somebody gives you their name, then they also feel personally responsible. So trying to get the name of somebody you're talking to is also another nice technique to develop the relationship, but also subtly say, "I know who you are," and if it's the
No,
right
brilliant,
person.
brilliant. So let's say you've got you moved forwards, you found a name, you've talked a little bit more, and you've learned more about what they do and what kind of roles they are interviewing for, or they are trying to provide experience for. So in a cover letter, for example, would you talk about that? Is that okay to make that a little bit more?
I think you would if you.
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, I think what you're trying to do is personalize. Again, back to the dating analogy. If somebody's taken the time to speak to somebody in your company or research what's going on in the news, then you would draw attention to that you've made that effort. So, your covering letter could begin, further to my phone call where I spoke to Tony on the front desk. I'm now following up with that CV. Or it might be, I'm writing in the hope that you might be able to have me for a day or two work shadowing. In fact, work experience would be even better, but I do appreciate how busy you are. From reading Twitter, I can see this is happening or that's unfolding, or, the fallout of the pandemic for your organization looks like this. So, I realize that you're very busy. However, these are the things I can do for you. I can answer phone calls, I can type up database, any unmet database requests. I've got admin skills. I can use Excel. I'm happy to pitch in, more than happy to make the tea and do photocopying. It's that
yeah.
sort of showing willing. What can you do for them? Because a lot of the time, nobody's going to go, "Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, get that person in. They're great." You've got to kind of convince and sell that you're not going to be a pain in the neck and that you can actually be quite useful during your time there.
So you can make it a bit unique and less formal in
Yeah.
that sense, so
And
long as
enthusiasm goes a long way. Why are you writing? Why are you writing? What you can do, why you're passionate about this organisation, where it fits into your career plans. If employers can give you a hand up and some experience, of course they would. But that animated energy, very much action verbs, very clear what you have to offer. I am my plan is to study a degree in this area. I really want to understand more about the pressure, with the turnaround time or project management, or I'd love to understand or just see client action, meetings in action. If there's confidentiality, then I do appreciate that. But I really would be I would be no trouble, and I'd be so excited. It would make my lockdown period
yeah, yeah.
beneficial. Like I would have achieved
And
something. I'd love to hear from you.
I think my final question is, now that you've talked about the tips and the strategies, so we've talked about how you can research, how you can submit applications that stand out from the crowd, that get to the people who are making decisions. Let's say you did get an opportunity like that. How do you get the most out of that opportunity to help you stand out from the crowd after university or during after university or an apprenticeship?
Well, I think the thing is that networking, you can think about how do I stand out from the crowd, or you can think about how do I make the most of this experience, and if it helps you stand out from the crowd, then even better. I think you go into these things thinking, right, well, I'm in front of these people who could really influence my thinking. There are things that I might not have considered. And I think you have to go like a sponge and saying, tell me, talk to me, ask questions, show curiosity. Um, you know, eh, Nobody is going to come and feed it to you, with a silver spoon. You've got to go in saying, right, I really want to understand how how do you know that your business is in the right direction? How do you record profit and loss? What's tricky about your job? What do you not like about your job? What's the most pressurized it can
Get
be?
to know the company, the role involved.
Yes, really get past getting people talking is really, people are really human, and quite often, they're putting across a very professional front, and that's great because that's what it's all about, is assuming a role and performing in a lot of ways. But I also think that there's a great opportunity to learn, and people love to be asked their advice. People love to be asked their opinion, and using this opportunity to develop those contacts for future. So, if you have a LinkedIn account, um, make sure you're accessing, that. Look people up in advance, and ask them to their face, would you be open to me connecting with you on LinkedIn moving forward? I've really loved your advice, and if in the future I needed to pick your brain, would you be happy to support me with my career?
Yeah. So building relationships, keeping a platform where you can ask questions and
So
grow and
you've
learn.
got that contact, and if you haven't got a LinkedIn account, then you really ought to be doing something as a student, like what you're studying, your profile, what you're aiming for, what you're open to, networking, connections, work experience, volunteering. Let employers know how they can contact you and what you can do for them. And I think as you move forward, having a LinkedIn profile is a very impressive thing for an employer. Um, you say, well, I have a LinkedIn profile. Oh, do you? Oh, well, yes, I'd like to connect with you. It's like being a learner driver.
Mhm.
We've all had to learn to drive and wear P plates for a year. So everybody's been through it. And there is a genuine altruism about supporting
So to
young
help
people
with
to move into the
yeah.
labour market.
Okay. Oh no, this has been tremendously useful and also interesting, and it's great speaking with you. So you can tell that all the passion and the lessons learned, and also just wanting to help, as you've said, it's such a great thing for young people to pick up more skills and make their efforts kind of more
And I think as well, be open, be flexible.
yeah,
Um, I think students think they wake up one day knowing exactly what job they want to do. It's not really about a particular job. It's more about developing your transferable skills and, having more than one strategy to success. So you might put in your UCAS form, you might apply to university, but equally you might also choose to apply and look at degree apprenticeships. I have a free information webinar if people are interested, on my, you can find it from allthingscareers.co.uk, courses and workshops, and it will link you to the degree apprenticeship webinar. But finding out information in advance, keeping your options open, applying for things that look interesting. If you're not 100% sure what you want to do at university,
yeah. I think that's really normal, as you said.
and that is really normal, and usually, the latest statistic is 60%. Two-thirds of students go to university not knowing what they want to do. So the message is make the most of your time, because whatever happens, you're going to have to give an account of what you've done with your time. You'll be asked what your leadership style is. You'll be asked about how you've solved problems creatively, how you've shown innovation and initiative. So if you're not joining in clubs and societies, how do you prove that? And equally, if you don't know what you want to do, you might choose to go and do a degree whilst working, because you're still getting a degree in business, something business related, finance, law, actuary, architectural technicians, the whole gambit is there.
Those are the apprenticeships.
At the end of that, yes, economists, there's still ones, for economics with the Government Economic Service. You will find that at the end of that, you have your degree, but you've got 4 years really tangible, practical experience. And if you then decide, well, I might go and do a postgrad in international aid or,
Yeah.
international business. The point is you've got 4 years working and a degree that's been paid for, so you can afford to pay for your postgrad. Just you've got to box clever, I think, about how you view your opportunities. There's not one size fits all, and everybody has to find their own path. And it's not a good enough reason to say, well, I'm going to university because I just don't know what else to do. You need to then say, well, okay, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? There are free websites like Start Profile where you can, sign up, register, do a careers quiz. But you've got to start thinking about what you look like at your best. And the other thing I will say as a word of caution, that, if you end up doing a first degree in business and then you leave and you want to work for, a really amazing advertising agency and they only do marketing and they're only recruiting for their degree, so a lot of graduates might have to do a second degree, you wouldn't be eligible if you've done a first degree that's related. So, it's all relatively new, but you must be doing your research and casting your net wide.
Yeah.
Don't think singularly. Think transferable skills. Think, how do I work? Do I work best by learning? Do I want to apply to uni, apply for degree apprenticeships, and also take a gap year and then see where I am when the exam results come back?
No, that's great. Yeah.
You've got to be open, and there should be a local career service offering, and you should be able to speak to somebody within the school. There are also opportunities to look at these on Future Learn, how to study, how to get the best out of university, which will give you an idea of what's expected if you're really going to,
I think that's kind of a really strong message there, that whatever you decide to choose, make the most of that opportunity, learn for your sake, build your own skills, and get to know employers, get to know these kinds of different job opportunities. But try your best, make the effort to connect with people, make the effort to build your skills. I'll be sure to link all the websites that you've been referring to.
The thing is, Sophie, I just want students to feel empowered. There's no right or wrong as long as you're polite, but you have to, as you say, take action, show engagement, and tell your story. Why have you made the decisions you've made? What is it you're learning? What do you want to be learning in the future? You just can't be passive. You've got to know yourself and have an opinion on your skills, what's happening in the world around you, and how you want your career to progress, because you're going to be asked from here on in, no matter where you are, why. Why have you applied? Why have you studied these A levels? Why do you want to do this? Why? People are constantly going to be asking you about your motivations. So you do need to be reflecting and thinking about that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. And again, we're going to welcome any comments, any feedback on this video, and hopefully this becomes a conversation that we can build on from here. Thank you so much, Susan. Again, really.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Sophie.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.